At first, no one believed the situation would turn serious or spiral out of control so quickly. But after only a few nights, the lakeshore began to change in ways that were impossible to ignore. The soil was torn apart, and the water gradually turned murky, as if something beneath the surface had been stirring it from within. Then they appeared not as isolated individuals, but as an entire herd of wild boars pouring down like a dark flood, breaking every boundary between nature and human space. As the damage spread further with each passing night, the control team was forced to step in without delay. In Texas, this kind of situation is no longer unusual or unexpected. From above, a helicopter circled steadily, scanning across forests and open fields, revealing the hidden movement routes below. Everything repeated with almost fixed timing, like a pattern that never changed. Overlapping footprints formed invisible pathways etched into the land. From these small but precise details, a strategy began to take shape, built entirely on careful observation and patience. Only when the herd lost its sense of caution was the first trap finally activated. It was a smart corral system, directly connected to the control team's phones for real-time control. Everything was nearly invisible, with no noise, no disturbance, and no unusual signs. Through live camera feeds, the signal came in clearly. The entire group had gathered at the bait station. A single command was issued, and within an instant, the steel gate dropped, holding the herd in place in near silence. However, not all of them were caught in that first attempt. A few individuals remained outside and managed to escape in time. From a distance, they watched carefully. They remembered every detail. And after just one encounter like that, the herd's behavior began to change noticeably. Narrow structures were avoided. Even the smallest unusual detail was quickly detected. Their awareness increased, making the initial methods far less effective than before. What had started as a straightforward operation was now turning into a true battle of intelligence and adaptation. To overcome this shift, the strategy had to evolve quickly. Instead of forcing the situation, the control team moved to a more refined and calculated approach. A large corral trap was built in the middle of an open area, designed with multiple wide entrances for easy access. There was no roof, no sense of confinement or pressure. From the outside, it looked more like a natural feeding zone than a trap. And just as expected, the herd began to enter slowly, cautiously, testing each step before gradually becoming familiar with the space over time. The decisive moment only came when the entire herd was fully inside the structure. No signal was triggered too early, and no movement caused panic before the right time. Then, in a single instant, two massive steel gates slammed shut from opposite directions, cutting off every possible escape route. The sound of impact echoed as the boars rushed against the barriers in confusion. But the circular design absorbed the force efficiently, leaving no weak points, no gaps, and absolutely no chance of breaking through. The final operation was carried out on a dry stretch of land near the lake, identified as the herd's last retreat route after multiple observations. There, a massive circular trap was constructed, standing firm like a fortress against any attempt to escape. Every detail had been carefully calculated in advance. On the monitoring screens, each animal appeared one by one, moving slowly and cautiously into the controlled zone. None of them realized that the entire surrounding space had already been secured. And when the final gate dropped, everything came to an end. No more nights of destruction. No more dark waves returning to disrupt the fragile balance. The next morning, transport teams began their work in a controlled and organized manner. There was no rush, no aggressive handling at any point. Every step was carried out with care to minimize stress on the animals as much as possible. Mobile barriers were set up, combined with gentle sound cues to guide the herd toward the transport vehicles. From there, they were relocated to designated management areas in accordance with regulations, becoming part of a long-term and sustainable control process. Because in the end, this is not a battle of strength or force. It is a battle of understanding and precision. Every trap, every activation, depends on accurately reading the behavior of the animals and anticipating their reactions. It is a process that requires patience, timing, and a deep awareness of how patterns form and change over time. And only when humans learn to adapt faster than the patterns they face can we truly protect crops, water sources, and the fragile balance of nature. If you want to explore more ways humans are confronting wildlife through strategy and technology, make sure to subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts in the comments below.
No one expected a scene like this to unfold in the middle of a city. A wild boar charged straight through a glass door, the crash echoing across a residential area. Just hours later, another group appeared on the beach, running along the shoreline under bright lights and rising panic. Cameras captured them crossing roads, overturning trash bins, slipping into neighborhoods as if this place had always belonged to them. No distance left, no boundaries anymore. As the damage spread, control teams were forced to step in. In Texas, this had become a familiar scenario. Helicopters circled overhead, scanning forests and open fields, revealing the herd's movement routes. Overlapping tracks formed repeating paths, almost following a fixed rhythm each night. From above, These invisible roads began to emerge, and from them, a strategy took shape.
Check.
Instead of acting immediately, the team chose to observe. Infrared cameras were installed along key movement corridors. Each night, data was recorded with precision. The timing of the herd's arrival, how they approached food sources, and how they reacted to even the smallest environmental changes. Nothing was rushed. Every step depended on understanding behavior before intervention. When all conditions were met, the first trap was deployed. It was a smart enclosure system, blending seamlessly into the environment, with no noise or unusual signs. Bait was placed inside. On the monitor, each animal appeared, stepping in cautiously before gradually lowering its guard. When most of the herd had entered, a command was sent. The steel gate slammed shut in an instant, silently holding nearly the entire group. But not all were captured. A few individuals remained outside, retreating just in time. They watched from a distance, learned quickly, and disappeared. These few changed everything. After just one encounter, the herd's behavior began to shift. Closed structures were avoided. Even the smallest irregularities were detected. Their caution intensified, making initial methods less effective over time. Faced with this, the strategy had to evolve. Instead of small traps, the team built a large circular enclosure in an open area. No roof, no sense of confinement. Wide entry points made the structure resemble a natural feeding ground. At first, the boars lingered at the edges, but with no sign of danger, they moved deeper, more freely, gradually forming a habit of returning. The acclimation process lasted for days. No sudden interference, no signals that could trigger panic. Only when the entire herd was fully inside did the decisive moment arrive. Two large gates dropped simultaneously from opposite sides, cutting off every escape. The impact echoed as the herd surged against the barrier, but the circular design absorbed the force effectively, leaving no weak points.
Too terrible.
The final operation was carried out near a dry zone by the lakeshore, identified as a critical movement route. An even larger trap was constructed, with every parameter carefully calculated in advance. One by one, the animals entered cautiously, unaware that the entire space was already under control. And when the final gate closed, it was over. No more nights of torn ground. No more herds returning to disrupt the fragile calm. The next morning, transport began. Teams used mobile fencing combined with gentle sound cues to guide the animals in a controlled manner. No rush, no panic. Each group was loaded and transferred to designated management areas, becoming part of a long-term, sustainable control strategy. In the end, this was never a battle of strength. It was a battle of understanding.
Oh, he's a big one! Oh, it's right there. All right.
Every trap works only when it reflects how the animal thinks and reacts. And only when humans adapt faster can we truly protect crops, water sources, and the delicate balance of nature. If you want to explore more real-world control strategies like this, follow the channel and share your thoughts.
At first, everything happened almost invisibly. A trash bin slightly out of place, a few deep scratches on a tree trunk, large footprints pressed into damp soil after a night of rain. No one saw it as a real threat. But within just a few days, the signs began to connect, like pieces of an unseen map. The bear was no longer appearing at random. It was moving in patterns, returning along the same paths at the same times, as if the entire area had been committed to memory. Once the movement pattern was identified, the control team didn't rush in. Instead of intervening immediately, they divided the area into two strategic control points. Two gateways the bear was almost certain to pass through. One sat along the primary route, where tracks appeared most frequently. The other was placed deeper in, at the spot where the bear lingered the longest, where it searched for food and began to let its guard down. This wasn't just about setting traps. It was about building a controlled corridor.
There. It'll be a good one for the freezer. Get right down on your knee. You want a nice low.
What made the situation complex wasn't the bear's strength, but its memory and adaptability. It wasn't acting on instinct alone, it was learning from its environment. A reliable food source became a behavioral anchor, and with each return, they grew more confident, more precise, moving with almost no deviation. This calculated repetition turned even the smallest human error into a serious risk.
Look a little bit ugly, but what that plastic's going to do is
T, the first point. The area was left completely untouched for several nights. No foreign scent, no human trace, nothing that might raise suspicion. The bear continued to pass through, repeating its familiar route as if nothing had changed. But that very lack of change was the most critical preparation. When a moment came, the mechanism was triggered at the exact instant it entered the control zone. A fast, precise hold that stopped its movement along the very path it trusted most. However, surveillance quickly revealed another reality. The bear wasn't alone. New movements kept appearing on camera. Other individuals following the same routes, at the same times, as if they shared the same behavioral map. Clearly, a single interception point wouldn't solve the problem. The strategy had to expand, from blocking paths to controlling stopping points and T, the second location, the approach shifted entirely. It was no longer a direct interception, but a controlled lure space. Food was placed in an area familiar to the bear, but not out in the open as before. Instead, it was arranged with depth, forcing the animal to move further in, step into a more defined space where its behavior could be fully managed. This process didn't happen overnight. At first, everything was kept safe. Food close by, easy to access, no pressure. Then gradually, the distance increased. With each return, the bear had to move a little deeper, stay a little longer. There was no force, only slow adaptation. And through that process, it began to accept the new space as a natural part of its behavior. Once the habit had been established long enough, the system was finally complete. The bear moved in, fully focused on the food ahead. As it crossed the threshold, the mechanism activated instantly. No widespread chaos, no disruption to the entire area. Each intervention affected only a single individual, keeping the others from changing their behavior abruptly. From those scattered early signs to the establishment of two control points, one intercepting movement, the other shaping behavior. It all came together as a complete system. This was no longer about setting traps in the conventional sense, but about understanding and guiding animal behavior. When a strategy is built on how they move and learn, its effectiveness lies not only in immediate results, but in maintaining long-term stability across the entire area.
Willow, she actually loves.
I loaded it.
If this herd makes it through the night, what's at risk isn't just a few crop rows or a small corner of a field. It could mean an entire year of labor wiped out in just a few short hours. In many rural areas of the United States, this is no longer a hypothetical. It's a reality that has repeated itself far too many times. When night falls, fields that seem peaceful by day become silent targets for roaming groups of wild boars. And before the sun even rises, dozens of hectares can be torn apart, as if an invisible storm had just swept through. What makes the situation dangerous isn't just the numbers, it's the speed. With wild boars, everything happens faster than humans can react. Once they've chosen a target, the window to intervene is almost non-existent. Statistics from southern states show that even a group of 15 to 20 can destroy over a hectare of crops in just a few hours overnight. But what's even more alarming is that they don't move randomly. Wild boars remember routes, recognize their surroundings, and learn from every encounter. Just one or two encounters with traps can cause an entire group to completely alter its path. The footprints appearing along the edge of the field tonight are no longer on the old route. They've shifted slightly, a small detail, but enough to suggest the herd is testing a new approach. And in wildlife control, missing this moment means losing the opportunity altogether. Sometimes, just one night of delay can lead to an entire season's failure.
Huh?
Get a pole, boys.
There is no advanced technology here. No sensors. No remote controls. Just familiar farm materials. Things that have been used and refined through years of experience. Yet that simplicity becomes the advantage. Every trap placement is calculated based on the natural behavior of wild boars, guiding them through habit rather than forcing change. The bait is used sparingly, never too much, never enough to create suspicion. Because wild boars are extremely sensitive. A single unfamiliar scent, the slightest irregular detail, can make the entire group stop and retreat instantly. The goal isn't to lure them into a trap in an obvious way. The goal is to make them believe nothing has changed, that their familiar path is still as safe as ever. And as they keep moving forward, they unknowingly enter a space that has already been brought under control. Fast deployment does not mean rushing. It is the result of eliminating every unnecessary step through accumulated experience.
Put this bottom, yep, like that.
Everything must be completed before the herd arrives. When that moment comes, all adjustments must stop. There is no second attempt. No room for error. What has been set in place must be trusted completely. In the darkness, an unexpected sound breaks the silence earlier than anticipated. That is often when the herd begins to probe. They move closer, pause, listen, then decide whether to go further. This is the most fragile moment. The herd keeps moving. They pass through each control point without suspicion. No panic, no signs of alarm, and within a short span of time, everything unfolds exactly as planned. When the trapdoor finally closes, the number inside is almost unbelievable, a sight that is both surprising and a stark reminder of the true scale of the problem. Wild boars reproduce at an astonishing rate. A single female can give birth to 2 litters per year, each with 4 to 6 piglets. Without continuous control, the results of one night can become meaningless within just a few months. That's why what is achieved today is not just the protection of a single field. It is time, precious time, regained for farmers, for communities, and for the balance of the ecosystem. In the end, effectiveness does not come from complex devices or advanced technology. It comes from understanding animal behavior, making the right decisions at the right moment, and maintaining patience when it matters most. In this silent confrontation, victory does not come from strength, but from precision, experience, and a long-term responsibility to the land being protected.
On the rugged mountain ranges of Montana, where dense forests blend with highland grasslands and winding river valleys, Wild bears roam freely through a vast and majestic landscape. While they symbolize the strength and freedom of this land, their growing numbers also bring increasing concerns. Bears often break into farms, destroy livestock feed, and rummage through waste, causing significant property damage each year and sometimes creating dangerous situations for both humans and animals. Wild bears are among the most iconic and formidable animals in North America, and Montana is one of their ideal habitats. Among dense pine forests, towering Rocky Mountains, and wide river valleys, two main species dominate: black bears and the larger, more powerful grizzly bears. As omnivores, they feed on everything from berries, roots, fish, and insects to larger prey. Thanks to vast wilderness areas like Glacier National Park and the Bob Marshall Wilderness Complex, bear populations in Montana continue to thrive, making this region both a paradise for nature lovers and a harsh test for those living on the edge between wilderness and human settlements. In areas where bears repeatedly return near farms and residential zones, control can no longer rely on random reactions or temporary measures. Instead, carefully planned trapping systems must be deployed, tailored to the movement patterns and level of caution of each individual animal. One commonly used method is large steel cage traps, placed precisely at locations the bear has approached multiple times over consecutive nights. The goal is not only to contain the bear, but also to ensure the entire control process remains stable and minimizes risks for both humans and the animal. The effectiveness of this system does not lie in its size, but in how accurately it is positioned along the bear's familiar travel routes. Before deployment, days of monitoring are required to determine exactly where the animal passes, where it lingers, and how it approaches food sources. Footprints in soft soil, claw marks on tree trunks, overturned trash, and repeatedly used paths all serve as key indicators for placement. Only when these signs are clear is bait placed deep inside, forcing the bear to fully enter the controlled zone. However, not every individual reacts in predictable ways. Bears that have previously encountered humans or escaped control efforts tend to become highly cautious. In such cases, cage traps are no longer ideal, and teams must switch to a more discreet method: foothold snare traps placed directly along established travel paths. The entire mechanism is carefully concealed beneath soil, leaf litter, and surrounding natural elements to avoid creating anything unusual. When the bear steps into position, the cable loop tightens almost instantly and is anchored to a secure point strong enough to prevent the animal from moving far. Under Montana's harsh conditions, controlling a bear is never a matter of chance, but the result of observation, patience, and field experience. Bear hunting requires meticulous planning, specialized equipment, and absolute respect for the animal. Hunting seasons typically occur in spring and fall, depending on the region and species. While some areas allow baiting, this practice is completely prohibited in Montana for ethical and ecological reasons. As a result, participants must rely on natural terrain and a deep understanding of bear behavior. If you were living in Montana and faced the challenge of dealing with one of North America's most formidable predators, would you choose to observe, control, or confront it directly? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to follow for more journeys into wildlife control, survival, and life at the edge of the wild.
At first, everything was just a few scattered signs appearing around the farm bordering the pine forest in northern Michigan. Feed containers were torn apart overnight. Tree trunks near the fence bore long, deep scratches, as if someone had slashed the bark with a steel blade. Then came sections of steel fencing bent in almost impossible ways. The locals knew exactly what it meant. An adult black bear had begun moving closer to the residential area, and it was no longer afraid of humans. At first, many believed it was just a temporarily lost animal. But within a few weeks, the infrared camera system recorded its repeated appearances across multiple locations. What concerned the wildlife control team was not its nearly 200-kilogram size, but the way it moved. It did not wander randomly. It learned quickly, constantly changed its routes, and appeared almost exclusively at times when human activity was absent. As the damage began to exceed control, the management team was forced to deploy a different strategy. This time, they used a large steel cage trap designed specifically for bears accustomed to urban environments. Unlike standard small traps, this system stretched nearly 4 meters long, with a reinforced steel frame strong enough to withstand the violent impact of a panicked adult bear. But the most important factor was not the trap's strength, it was how it was deployed. Instead of placing the trap near the damaged areas, The team selected a movement corridor deep within the forest, where cameras had consistently recorded the bear passing through before approaching the farm. They understood that large bears are often highly cautious of any unfamiliar object appearing along their usual paths. For that reason, the trap was not activated immediately. For several consecutive days, the steel door was fixed fully open, allowing the bear to gradually acclimate to its presence. The bait was not placed deep inside but spread in layers, leading from outside into the cage. By the 8th night, the bear's behavior began to change. It no longer circled the trap for long, but moved directly inside to access the food. Even then, the team still did not activate the system. They continued allowing the animal to feel completely safe within the steel enclosure. The goal was not to capture it quickly, but to eliminate its sense of caution entirely. Then the decisive moment arrived. At nearly 2 a.m., the thermal camera recorded the bear moving deep into the far end of the cage to reach the main food container. Within seconds, the heavy steel door weighing hundreds of kilograms slammed shut with a thunderous echo through the dark forest. The bear reacted almost instantly. It lunged violently at the steel bars, using its full weight to force an escape. The entire structure shook continuously under the massive impacts. But the elongated tunnel design helped disperse the force, preventing the animal from generating enough momentum to destroy the structure. Notably, the control team did not approach immediately after the trap was triggered. They waited for a period of time, allowing the bear to gradually calm down. Adult bears in a state of panic can injure themselves if further agitated by bright lights or loud noise. Only near dawn did the specialized team move in, equipped with a transport vehicle and tranquilizing equipment, operating from a safe distance. As the forest slowly brightened under the cold light of dawn, the bear was finally relocated away from the residential area. But for those involved in the operation, the most important outcome was not simply capturing a dangerous animal. What they truly pursued was the ability to control the situation without disrupting the natural balance of the entire region. And in that silent confrontation between humans and these massive predators, victory did not belong to strength, but to patience, understanding, and the ability to read even the smallest behaviors of wild bears.
At first, everything happened almost invisibly. A trash bin slightly out of place, a few deep scratches on a tree trunk, large footprints pressed into damp soil after a night of rain. No one saw it as a real threat. But within just a few days, the signs began to connect, like pieces of an unseen map. The bear was no longer appearing at random. It was moving in patterns, returning along the same paths at the same times, as if the entire area had been committed to memory. Once the movement pattern was identified, the control team didn't rush in. Instead of intervening immediately, they divided the area into two strategic control points, two gateways the bear was almost certain to pass through. One sat along the primary route, where tracks appeared most frequently. The other was placed deeper in, at the spot where the bear lingered the longest, where it searched for food and began to let its guard down. This wasn't just about setting traps. It was about building a controlled corridor.
There. It'll be a good one for the freezer. Get right down on your knee. You want a nice low.
What made the situation complex wasn't the bear's strength, but its memory and adaptability. It wasn't acting on instinct alone, it was learning from its environment. A reliable food source became a behavioral anchor, and with each return, it grew more confident, more precise, moving with almost no deviation. This calculated repetition turned even the smallest human error into a serious risk.
Look a little bit ugly, but what that plastic's going to do is going to...
The first point. The area was left completely untouched for several nights. No foreign scent, no human trace, nothing that might raise suspicion. The bear continued to pass through, repeating its familiar route as if nothing had changed. But that very lack of change was the most critical preparation. When a moment came, the mechanism was triggered at the exact instant it entered the control zone. A fast, precise hold that stopped its movement along the very path it trusted most. However, surveillance quickly revealed another reality. The bear wasn't alone. New movements kept appearing on camera. Other individuals following the same routes, at the same times, as if they shared the same behavioral map. Clearly, a single interception point wouldn't solve the problem. The strategy had to expand, from blocking paths to controlling stopping points. guarantee the second location, the approach shifted entirely. It was no longer a direct interception, but a controlled lure space. Food was placed in an area familiar to the bear, but not out in the open as before. Instead, it was arranged with depth, forcing the animal to move further in, step into a more defined space where its behavior could be fully managed. This process didn't happen overnight. At first, everything was kept safe. Food close by, easy to access, no pressure. Then gradually, the distance increased. With each return, the bear had to move a little deeper, stay a little longer. There was no force, only slow adaptation. And through that process, it began to accept the new space as a natural part of its behavior. Once the habit had been established long enough, the system was finally complete. The bear moved in, fully focused on the food ahead. As it crossed the threshold, the mechanism activated instantly. No widespread chaos, no disruption to the entire area. Each intervention affected only a single individual, keeping the others from changing their behavior abruptly. From those scattered early signs to the establishment of two control points, one intercepting movement, the other shaping behavior. It all came together as a complete system. This was no longer about setting traps in the conventional sense, but about understanding and guiding animal behavior. When a strategy is built on how they move and learn, its effectiveness lies not only in immediate results, but in maintaining long-term stability across the entire area.
Willow, she actually loves.
I loaded it.
What would you do when facing over 90 kilograms of muscle charging wildly through the dark? For us, that's not a rare situation. It's a routine part of daily work in the Mississippi Delta. In this world, every mistake comes at a cost. Destroyed crops, damaged property, and sometimes human safety itself. We are a rapid response team specializing in wild hog control, one of the most serious ecological threats in this region. Wild hogs don't just tear through fields in a matter of hours. They collapse levees, overturn farmland, and carry a range of dangerous diseases. Our work doesn't begin with action, but with observation. Deep tracks pressed into wet soil, freshly churned mud, or scattered corn. Every detail becomes data used to map the movement patterns of an entire sounder. Our goal is not reckless action. Instead, it's calculated control, minimizing risk to people and livestock while ensuring long-term effectiveness. Two corral trap systems, each about 6 meters long, are deployed at strategic points. When driven inside, the hogs panic, slamming into the netting with full force. But instead of rigid resistance, the net is designed to flex, absorbing impact and holding them without creating a breaking point. To make that possible, preparation takes days. The first phase is conditioning. The net is suspended high on T-posts nearly 1.8 meters tall. Beneath it, dozens of kilograms of corn are spread evenly, creating a sense of safety. The hogs come to feed, repeating the behavior multiple times without encountering danger. That familiarity becomes the key to breaking their natural caution. A few days later, the system switches to capture mode. The net is lowered, everything appears unchanged, except this time, there is no escape. Still, wild hogs are not easily fooled. Infrared camera data after 1 a.m. shows the entire group lingering at the trap's edge, using their snouts to pull bait without fully stepping inside. Not a single animal crosses the boundary. This is where patience is tested. One wrong move, and the entire operation could fail. Nearly an hour passes in silence. Then the lead sow, the one guiding the group, finally steps across the edge. It enters, probes cautiously, then begins to feed. Within seconds, the others follow. In that moment, everything changes. Once the entire group is inside, the system is triggered. The net drops, enclosing the entire space. Success doesn't come from luck, but from precise understanding of their behavior. The next morning, the scene looks like a storm has just swept through. Mud is scattered everywhere, the net stretched tight under the pressure of dozens of bodies trampling and struggling to escape. The noise is relentless, chaotic, yet the structure holds. We approach in a controlled manner, using specialized catch poles with cable loops to restrain each individual. Every movement must be synchronized and precise. There is no room for error. At another site near a livestock area, the situation becomes more complicated. A section of the net is torn, a sign that an individual had escaped before. We repaired it, but the connectors weren't strong enough. With their sharp memory, the hogs can return to that exact weak point. In cases like this, there is no room for risk. A swift decision is made to eliminate the threat before it spreads. As night falls, we continue moving between trap sites. Each location tells a different story, but all revolve around one principle: understand behavior to control behavior. At the final site, the most destructive individuals are contained inside. They charge the net in desperation, but there is no escape. The work continues until the last light of dusk fades. When the operation ends, the exhaustion finally sets in. But what remains is more than just numbers brought under control. It is stability restored to an entire region. With wild hogs, strength doesn't lie in muscle, but in their ability to learn and adapt. And if the strategy isn't precise, a single mistake is enough to render every previous effort meaningless.
Bears rarely announce their presence with loud noises in the middle of the night. Instead, they approach quietly, often leaving almost no obvious signs at first. Large footprints pressed deeply into the damp soil behind the house, a slightly shifted trash can lid, or long claw marks on a storage shed door are usually the earliest indicators. Farm owners may notice these signs, but often choose to ignore them, assuming it was just a one-time visit.
小鹿を捕まえたのはハッチは
This underestimation allows the early warnings to go unaddressed, making it easier for the situation to repeat itself over multiple nights without any real sense of caution or preparedness. Bears do not move randomly as many people might assume. Once they discover a reliable and easily accessible food source, they are capable of remembering its location with remarkable accuracy. Their strong sense of smell allows them to detect food such as grains, honey, or animal feed from a considerable distance. If their first visit is successful, returning becomes almost inevitable. At first, it may only be a single bear, but over time the frequency of visits increases. These repeated visits gradually form a clear and structured behavioral pattern that becomes more consistent and predictable with each passing night. As the signs begin to appear more frequently, traditional deterrent methods often lose their effectiveness. At this stage, the use of traps may be considered as a necessary control measure. The goal is not to confront the animal directly, but to disrupt the established pattern of return behavior. When food is no longer easily accessible, bears are forced to change their movement patterns. This helps reduce their presence in the area and prevents the behavior from developing into a long-term habit that becomes much more difficult to control, especially in areas close to human settlements. Over time, the repeated return behavior becomes a well-established habit. Bears begin to move along fixed routes, remembering not only the location but also the timing of food availability. They do not need to cause significant damage initially to achieve their goal. Even a small vulnerability in the environment is enough for them to gain access. If they encounter no resistance, this behavior continues to repeat and becomes increasingly stable. This progression makes control more challenging if not addressed early and with the appropriate approach. As the frequency of visits increases, the level of risk also becomes more apparent. The range of bear activity expands, gradually moving closer to areas where people live and work. They begin to appear more often at night, searching for food near residential spaces. Under motion sensor lights, bears move cautiously but show less hesitation than before. As wild animals become more accustomed to human presence, the likelihood of direct encounters rises significantly. This creates situations that are unpredictable and potentially dangerous over time. In response to this situation, observation and trap placement must be carried out in a calculated and strategic manner. Farmers monitor the timing of bear appearances, their habitual travel routes, and the locations where they tend to linger the longest. Footprints, claw marks on trees, and images captured by night surveillance cameras provide valuable data. Once the behavior is clearly understood, trap placement can be determined with precision. The trap enclosure is secured firmly and designed to appear natural, allowing the bear to enter without suspicion. Bait is placed deep inside to ensure the bear fully enters before the mechanism is activated. Controlling bears is not about confrontation, but about adjusting the environment in a balanced and sustainable way. When easily accessible food sources are removed, the return behavior gradually decreases over time. Maintaining a safe distance between humans and wildlife is essential to minimizing risk. Combining multiple control strategies often produces more stable and effective results than relying on a single solution. With consistent monitoring and proper adjustments, long-term balance can be achieved, reducing damage while preserving safety for both people and wildlife.